Earlier, I was reading the news as I often do, and I was trying to think of something I want to talk about tonight, and I blanked because sometimes you may be able to relate to this. Sometimes it feels like the news is just bad, right? And now I understand that corporate and traditional media are primed to give us only the bad news, and that's always been a huge problem. Humanity has not evolved beyond clickbait, it seems. Good news doesn't sell. However, I mean, we try to ignore that impulse, quite frankly, because it is so important that we remember that there are a lot of good things happening in this world, and there are a lot of people doing great work that can coexist with the other truth that a lot of the news is bad and it's serious and it's consequential. However, whatever the news is, it shouldn't short circuit my brain so that I can't think of any of the good stuff, right? So, just before we started, I wanted to remind myself as much as you that there is so much good. There are so many people continuing to fight the good fight. So many of us are on the right side of history. Um, I've talked to you guys about my friend E. Jean Carroll's new book coming out, her court victories. I had the great privilege of having a couple of conversations with her today. Um, and her case embodies a couple of things. One, the fact that it is possible. It is possible if you have the truth on your side and you have a community in place that is willing to fight for you and you have the guts, you can prevail over somebody as horrific and criminal and depraved as Donald Trump. What Eugene also reminds me is that there are people like her in the world. She has been through it in ways you can't even imagine, and she is literally the most upbeat, optimistic, positive person I have ever known. She's an example to all of us. And then, of course, at the community level, we have people, friends, neighbors, coworkers, bosses showing up in numbers to protect the people in their communities. ICE is trying to come in and illegally detain and perhaps disappear. I truly do think that we are reaching a point of critical mass in this country. Now, of course, we need to pay attention to all of the things that are weakening America, all of the dangers that are posed by the Trump regime, obviously, because that's all still going on, and that is what we are fighting against in part. But I do think we must remind ourselves to take a moment now and then to think about not just what we're fighting for, but how many of us there are fighting for it. Because that's everything. And we're making a difference. We don't have to wait for anybody to do that work for us. Because as we continue to see, as people keep showing up, as people keep protesting and marching and celebrating despite the potential risks, we know that we're enough. Let's dive in. Hi, everybody. Welcome to tonight's episode of Mary Trump Live. It is wonderful to be here with you. So as Donald continues to use ICE to ramp up and implement his deportation agenda, the fight between the Trump regime and the resistance movement continues. Today in California, tensions rose as ICE tried to gain entry to Dodger Stadium. Let's take a look at the scene today as reported by KTLA 5 Los Angeles.
Those federal agents were right here behind us at the entrance to Gate E here. They've now being escorted on the other side. Want to take you right up to Sky 5, keeping an eye on those federal immigration agents leaving Dodger Stadium here. At this point, we know they've been here for several hours. This group here where we're located told them to get out of the area. We are hearing reports, according to the LA Times and people here on the ground, that these agents reportedly attempted to enter the stadium property, but were told they could not stay here, which, while this parking lot is adjacent to Dodger Stadium, it is owned by the team's former owner, billionaire Frank McCourt. Again, those ICE agents now being told that they cannot be here. Back out here live on the ground, we can tell you that this group here, they say they want these agents gone.
Yes, so do we all. The scene was chaos as ICE agents, protesters, and media gathered outside of the team parking lot. The purpose of the ICE operation remains unclear because agents declined to answer questions posed to them by outlets like the Los Angeles Times. So we don't really have any information about what operation they were ostensibly conducting. Luckily, the Dodgers were having none of it. And they released a tweet clearly rebuking Donald's deportation agenda. It reads, quote, "This morning, ICE agents came to Dodger Stadium and requested permission to access the parking lots. They were denied entry to the grounds by the organization. Tonight's game will be played as scheduled," unquote. Straightforward and to the point. This is exactly what we need. Powerful organizations like the Dodgers standing up for what's right. So what did ICE do in response? They turned around and they left. These guys are cowards. These are the guys who are really tough when they're going after 30-year-old grad students while wearing masks. But when confronted with enough people speaking truth to power, and when rebuked by a powerful organization like the Los Angeles Dodgers, they run away. So that is what can happen if we refuse to roll over for Donald, of all people, and the sycophants and enablers in his orbit. Another major player in holding Donald accountable is and should be the media. Now, this has not always been the case, even though there has long been a feud between Donald and the media. Or let me put it this way. Donald has been attacking the media and members of it for years now, but it looks like things are getting personal. A journalist was detained by ICE while covering the No Kings parades this weekend. The journalist is Mario Guevara. He's from El Salvador, but has been in the United States for over 20 years and is not a legal permanent resident or citizen, but he has a valid work permit and a social security number. Luckily, Guevara and his lawyers are fighting back. Guevara's legal team plans to challenge his detention and to try to find him a path to legal status, along with the backing of his family, who's fighting tooth and nail to get to the bottom of why this happened in the first place. But thanks to new limits imposed by the Department of Homeland Security, it may be harder than ever for us to get answers about those who are kidnapped and illegally detained. The Department of Homeland Security is setting new limits on visits by members of Congress and their staff to immigration enforcement facilities, asserting that ICE has broad power to, quote, deny a request or otherwise cancel, reschedule, or terminate a tour or visit by lawmakers or their staff under a number of circumstances, including operational concerns or if facility management or other ICE officials deem it appropriate to do so, unquote. Here's the thing, though. Under existing federal law, members of Congress can make unannounced oversight visits to immigration facilities that, quote, unquote, detain or otherwise house aliens. But the new policy specifies that ICE field offices are not subject to those requirements, despite the fact that detained immigrants have been held in some of those offices for days, waiting for officials to process their cases. So to be clear, the Department of Homeland Security is now guiding ICE to break the law and ban congressional access. And they're doing this simply by reclassifying the facilities that before now members of Congress did have access to. So if our most powerful politicians can't get access to these facilities, who can? But that's the point. These people who are terrorizing American citizens, people who are here legally, or maybe people who don't have the appropriate paperwork yet, but are here to work, to become citizens, to make their lives better, to make the lives of their children better. Yeah, they're real tough guys. As I said before, when they're going after the most vulnerable among us and wearing masks so they can't be identified. But that's the thing. They don't want anybody to see what's really going on behind the scenes or behind the masks. So we need to keep an eye on this because this should not be allowed to stand. Denying members of Congress access to these facilities in order for them to find out what is really going on and make decisions based on that information is unconscionable. Before we continue, I just want to take a second to ask you to like the stream and subscribe to our YouTube channel or my Substack, The Good in Us, if you support our mission here. Okay, so as Donald's troubles here are seeming to get worse, so are his troubles overseas because he's Donald. He has unleashed threats towards Iran, leaving Americans uncertain as to whether or not we will soon be plunged into war by the least competent, least qualified commander-in-chief in American history. Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt held a press conference in order to answer questions about Iran, I'm not really sure why she held a press conference, because it seems like the last thing she was prepared to do was answer questions about Iran. When asked directly about Donald's timeline for taking action against a country that has not attacked us, Leavitt gave this very vague response.
I have a message directly from the president, and I quote, "Based on the fact that there's a substantial chance of negotiations that may or may not take place with Iran in the near future, I will make my decision whether or not to go within the next 2 weeks." That's a quote directly from the president for all of you today.
Wow, a quote directly from him. That's like the only direct thing about that whole statement. Like, seriously, what is happening here? Are we going to war with Iran or not? I mean, think about this. In that statement, Donald basically said negotiations that may or may not happen. What does that even mean? If he's been threatening war for days, I'm pretty sure that suggests that it's a serious situation. But apparently, hey, we'll get back to you in 2 weeks. We're not like tracking a package that has been sent to us from some international address. We're talking about war. Let me rephrase. He's been talking about war. We've just been waiting to find out what the hell is in his head, because he claims to know, but he also claims that nobody else does. But of course, as soon as Leavitt said it, I had this sense of deja vu. I mean, where have we heard this will happen in 2 weeks before, right? I mean, if you think about it, Donald does have this obsession with certain increments, certain numbers. Like, he's always suing somebody for $100 million or something. So we have heard this before, right? So take a look at this.
I think you're going to find some very interesting items coming to the forefront over the next 2 weeks.
I'll be making a big decision over the next 2 weeks.
Sometime over the next 2 weeks.
You'll be following over the next 2 or 3 weeks. 2 weeks. 2 weeks. 2 weeks.
I would say over the next 2 or 3 weeks.
TikTok ban, war with Iran. It's all the same. 2 weeks. Get back to you. By the way, you know what happens almost every single time? 2 weeks pass and either everybody forgets about it or he gives himself another 2-week extension. I think we need to consider the possibility that all of this is just a way for Donald to keep people guessing who's going to get the rose, right? If you know that reference, congratulations. It's just a way to change the subject, to keep himself in the headlines, to keep the cameras trained on him, waiting for his every word, hanging on his every decision. Meanwhile, he doesn't know at all what he's going to do. So what is the future? What is in store for us and our relations with Iran? I don't know. Because Donald cannot stick to his word, and he certainly has a serious problem with deadlines because he can't make decisions. It's very difficult to make decisions when you know nothing. So while the Trump regime is scrambling, Americans across the United States are celebrating something legitimate today. This is an important national holiday. It took way too long for it to become a national holiday. So I want to wrap up the news today by wishing everybody a happy Juneteenth. Every single American should celebrate this holiday because this marks a time back in 1866 that U.S. Army troops arrived in Galveston, Texas, to inform some of the last enslaved Americans that they were finally, at long last, after 8 generations of having their people enslaved, enforcing the Emancipation Proclamation, which President Abraham Lincoln had issued more than 2 years earlier on January 1st, 1863. Today is considered a liberation day for Black Americans across the country and was recently made a national holiday by President Biden, which, I mean, that took a little too long, didn't it? I will leave it to you to figure out which political party stood in the way. Events like Opal's Walk for Freedom, an annual celebration, took place in Fort Worth, Texas this afternoon. And here's more on that from CBS News.
It is Juneteenth, and that means Opal's Walk for Freedom took place in Fort Worth, Texas. The annual 2.5-mile walk symbolizes the 2.5 years it took for Freedom News to reach enslaved people in Texas. The 98-year-old educator and activist behind it, often referred to as the grandmother of Juneteenth, was unable to take place this year, so she asked her granddaughter to lead the walk in her place.
Although Juneteenth is an African American holiday, it is not just for African Americans. It's not just for Texans. All right, it is a national holiday that allows people to find themselves in the Juneteenth story.
She says she and her grandmother are working to expand the walk to one city in all 50 states, including a walk in the nation's capital next year.
These events are critical in celebrating our history, especially now while the fascist Republicans are trying to erase it. Celebrations just like Opal's Walk are happening across the country despite overcoming some challenges, which, given the current climate, isn't surprising, even if it's disappointing. Kenneth Adams, the organizer of Juneteenth celebrations in Bend, Oregon, said, quote, "Given the nationwide climate, we're heavily about making sure that people are safe," unquote. But despite fear surrounding large gatherings, thanks to Donald's use of police violence and encouragement of police violence against American citizens, today is said to be a celebration across the country of the liberation, finally, at long last, of enslaved Black Americans. There's another thing that's keeping celebrations smaller than they might otherwise be, and that is the fact that many American corporations, because of the Trump regime's hideous DEI policies, are no longer funding Juneteenth celebrations in many, many towns. So they're either being canceled entirely or they're much smaller than they would otherwise be. And I just want to I want to echo what was said in that last clip. This is not an African American holiday. This is an American holiday. every single person in this country should be grateful that slavery was finally ended. It's an opportunity for us, especially those of us, whether we know it or not, whether we admit it or not, whether we like it or not, benefited from the system that kept Black people enslaved and then repressed and then terrorized and then marginalized. We have a lot of work to do in this country, and we are not going to be able to do any of it unless and until we embrace the fact that there is no separate Black history. Black history is American history. And nothing is going to change unless and until those of us who continue to benefit from a system that has not recognized the grievous harms done to the Black community over the centuries. We're going to keep getting people in office like Donald Trump. So let's celebrate, but while we're celebrating, let's also do a little soul searching. Okay. Happy Juneteenth. Today we had a request, and that request has been filled because our emotional support moment, the request was by Mida Cheryl. So thank you, Mida Cheryl, 1, for the request, because this is one of my favorite things, and 2, for everything you've been doing. Mida Cheryl requested some whales. So our team went out and found them. Not literally, but you know what I mean? Although, quite frankly, that would have been more fun. So we're going to take a swim with some humpback whales of Australia's Great Barrier Reef. So please breathe and enjoy. Okay, I'm happy now too. Is there anything as ridiculous and adorable as a baby whale? I mean, they're just awesome. All right. Let's get to it. We have a new member, Lady Di NV. Thank you so much for joining. It's great to have you here. Philip, question. Anyone get the sense Donnie Two Dolls is following the Bush Cheney playbook on WMD? Well, yes and no. Yes, because his own intelligence agencies are saying no, Iran is not currently in the process of developing a nuclear weapon. On the other hand, we know that Iran has been wanting to, which is why for years diplomats and statespeople were crafting the JCPOA or the Iran nuclear deal. So I think it's not quite as fantastical as the Bush Cheney issue, but I think it is absurd for any serious people in the media to take Donald at his word. So I think, yeah, it's possible the threat is overblown. And it's also possible that the playbook is Donald just grandstanding and saber rattling to get attention while creating a quite dangerous situation in the meantime. There she is, Mida Cheryl, another gifted One Mary Trump Media membership. Thank you. And thank you for that phenomenal video, because without you, we wouldn't have seen it. Zella, thank you so very much. Kitty treats. I love all the kitties, is the comment. Yeah, me too. I'm telling you, Mary Trump Media travel kitten right around the corner. Saving up that kitten. It's going to have a lot of treats. Ghostly Air 59, thank you so much as always. Comment, just serious love for Eugene Fee. Yeah, totally. Great chat today on Substack, Mary. Love watching you two laugh and smile. Made me happy. Yeah, well, Eugene makes me happy. She'll make us all happy. She's just truly the most sincerely ebullient and just, I don't know, like her joy. Her love for life is so genuine, and I wish it were more contagious. But it's quite. She's extraordinary. So I'm glad you caught the chat and enjoyed it. Maya Cheryl, thank you again. Lesson making me leave early fee, and we have a cat emoji and a penguin blue waving a whale and a penguin. But it's actually spelling out the emoji for me, which is a little weird. Mimi of 8, super sticker. Thank you so very, very much for that. Just me. Thank you as always. Question. How much focus can I keep on myself if I make a threat? So maybe I will, maybe I won't. Say I have a approved plan, but I'll decide on taco time. I'm really digging this. So good. Yeah, no kidding. And that is a big part of it. Donald always chickens out, but we can't say Daco because that doesn't make any sense. So the D is silent in taco. But yes, Donald Trump always chickens out, and he always needs the spotlight shining brightly on him as long as it's not humiliating news. There's been a lot of that. So, yep, I'm going to take us to war, he decides to say, because he actually thinks that that's something that most people want. To be fair, look what happened to George W. Bush's approval rating when he got us into war with Iraq. It kind of went up a lot until it didn't. Because, yeah. Jana, thank you so very much for that. Comment, go Dodgers. Fuck ice. Sorry, I said the whole word. I hope that's okay. We have a swear jar fee. So, in case the baseball gods are listening, I still don't want them to win. No, go Mets. Right? Mark, Mary, question. Did your grandfather put in a fallout shelter in the house during the Cuban Missile Crisis? Because Donald's obsession with nuclear weapons. I wasn't alive, but I don't know. I'm pretty sure I would have. I'm pretty sure I would have known about that. Here's the thing, though. Donald is a nihilist, and I think that's for reasons of that's because of things that's happened when he was very, very young. It's kind of complicated, but my grandfather, on the other hand, he didn't worry about anything. Like all he cared about was making his money and his business. Same thing. So my grandfather actually believed in his legacy. There is nothing he wanted more. I mean, I'm sure he probably wanted to live forever, and maybe he thought he was going to, but he actually wanted his empire to exist in perpetuity beyond him. Donald, on the other hand, doesn't believe that anything can possibly exist beyond him. That's a very, very significant difference, and that's why Donald is actually a more dangerous person. So I'm pretty sure my grandfather didn't. I'm not saying he didn't pay attention to it, but I'm pretty sure he wasn't out there building bomb shelters. Pam, thank you so very much for that. A late find. Sorry for my tardiness. No problem. I'm late sometimes too. Pam Klein, super sticker. Thanks so very much for that, Pam. Awesome. Greg, thank you as always. Question: did Elon forget it's not the 4th of July? Yeah, well, yet just Elon Musk and SpaceX set off some fireworks prematurely, which is to say, yet another one of their rockets imploded. Oops. Crashburn 32. Question: waiting to see what's in his head? I hope you brought a lunch. Yeah, it's gonna be a while. Laura, thank you so very much, Laura. Cat fee from Lolita. Thank you, Lolita. Who we brought over the Mexican border over 20 years ago. Rest in peace, my Lolo. Yes, well, that's awesome that Lola is still with you in spirit. So thank you very much for that. Yeah, it never gets easier, does it? Donna, thank you so very much for that. Comment: hi Mary, I'm with you. He just wants attention. It's so sad for this country that he is in the position he holds. I love this country, but I absolutely despise him. Damn the Donald Cheeto. Yeah. Yeah. And I think, again, we need to start shifting our focus more to the people who continue to empower him and keep him in position, because he clearly is flailing. He doesn't know what he's doing. And the fact that nobody who could do anything about it is bothering it, that's the problem. The people who keep supporting him, the people who keep enabling him, the people who keep making decisions on his behalf, those are the people we're going to have to be dealing with. Coco, thank you so very much. Comment: thank you, Mary, for all you do. You're quite welcome, and it is very, very much a team effort. So thank you for that. Champagne hand, Canadian in the house, elbows up. Comment: city contracted arborists just did hundreds of dollars worth of damage to my garden, but I'm trying to put it in perspective to world events fee. Yeah, I mean, perspective is important, but I'm very sorry about that. That's not good. And I hope it's fixable. Arborists don't seem like the kind of people who would go around destroying gardens. So I hope it was unintentional and accidental. And I wish it hadn't happened, obviously. But a new member for 1 month. Poot, thank you so much and welcome. Scotland super sticker, thank you so much. That's very generous of you. Lady Di and V, thank you as always. Gifted 1 Mary Trump membership. Excellent. We have a new member, Jeannie. Welcome. Thank you for that. Pood, super sticker. Thank you so much for that as well. Stephanie gifted 1 Mary Trump Media membership. Thank you so much, Stephanie. That's awesome. Long-haired hippie dragon. Comment: maybe if Elon didn't use the same glue in his rockets as he does on his Cybertrucks, where pieces fly off at 45 miles per hour, they wouldn't constantly blow up. Yes, you would think that somebody who is gunning to go to Mars would be a little bit more careful in terms of the adhesive he uses to put his rockets together. Seems like a reasonable precaution to make. And the pickle. Comment: Donald is really slurring his words recently. Yeah, poor guy. He looks sleepy. I have an idea. Donald, take a nap for like 3 years. We'll wake you up when it's over. Promise. All right, guys. Thank you so much for being here. Thanks to everybody watching on YouTube, to live streaming on Twitter, and our Substack, The Good in Us, and to everybody listening to the podcast. That's awesome. Thank you to all of our new members. We so appreciate that, as we appreciate our super stickers and everybody giving us gifts. You guys make all the difference in the world. Thank you also to our phenomenal moderators who, for those of you who don't know, just do this voluntarily, and it is not an easy job. So thanks, guys. And of course, to my incredible team who just stays above the fray and just keeps things in perspective and keeps us going, and, you know, stays on top of news cycles that would curl your hair, quite frankly. So just a quick reminder, the easiest way to support us is to subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. And remember, we have videos, in addition to the live videos, we have videos dropping every single day. So a very helpful way to support us is to watch those, like them, share them, and comment on them. Plus, if you don't know already, we have paid subscriptions, which are just extras. It has nothing to do with subscribing to the channel. So you can check those out on our YouTube homepage. And just remember, of course, Mary Trump Live is Monday through Friday at 6 p.m. Eastern. Ask Mary Anything Within Reason is Sunday at 6 p.m. Eastern. So that's easy to remember. I will be back at tomorrow, which is Friday, unbelievably enough, at 6 p.m. Eastern. In the meantime, everybody, please stay safe and be kind. See ya. Bye.